Bowl game loss to Cincinnati wrapped up Virginia Tech's first losing season in 26 years and falling to 6-7. Had to win the final two games against who was that? It wasn't Marshall. Was it Marshall? Who did they beat?
So they beat Marshall in essentially
yes.
the week of the ACC championship game.
Absolutely.
Continue their bowl eligibility.
After the win against Virginia, and then they made up the game against Marshall to get themselves bowl eligible, and then faltered in the final minutes against Cincinnati to finish at 6-7. We don't necessarily know who's going to be on the field for the Hokies come August 31st against Boston College, but we know that guys will be wearing the familiar maroon uniforms or white on the road at BC. Mike, take a look at this Virginia Tech schedule, which, of course, should provide 3 wins out of conference. The other date against Notre Dame, who returns the trip to South Bend. Your thoughts about the Hokies coming up?
Pretty easy schedule. Again, we'll see who's suiting up for Virginia Tech come the fall. At BC is a toss-up in the opener. That's a coin flip game, in my opinion. BC, of course, had their way with Virginia Tech and Blacksburg this past year, which I don't know. It's not saying much. A lot of teams had their way with the Hokies and Blacksburg. But, we'll see if Virginia Tech can return the favor in Chestnut Hill. That's a toss-up game in the opener, a very tough opener. If you're going to play a team from the ACC going to Chestnut Hill and playing against a smash-mouth Boston College Eagles team is probably not the game you want to open up with. Home against Old Dominion, we saw how that turned out last year, but Virginia Tech's a better team. They should get the job done in Blacksburg this year. Home against Furman in week 3, that should be a win. Bye week. Home against Duke, winnable game. At Miami, one of the tougher games on the schedule. Don't love Virginia Tech's chances there. Home against Rhode Island, home against North Carolina. Those are 2 winnable games for the Hokies before a bye week. After the bye week, you go to South Bend to play a top 10 Notre Dame team. That could, if Virginia Tech's defense doesn't improve in a hurry, that could be ugly. We saw Notre Dame win that game by 3 touchdowns in Blacksburg this past season. Imagine Notre Dame playing at home. That's all I'll say about that. Wake Forest at Georgia Tech, home against Pitt at Virginia. All winnable games at Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech has not beaten Georgia Tech under Justin Fuente. And I don't know if that's a Paul Johnson thing or not. I guess we'll find out this year with Jeff Collins, now the head coach at Georgia Tech. At Virginia, the Virginia game always seems like a win because Virginia just can't get the job done against the Hokies. They can't do it. They haven't done it in 15 straight years. Look, I think if Virginia Tech wins less than 7 games with this schedule, you're really questioning whether or not Justin Fuente and his staff are the right guys moving forward. I think you absolutely need to win at least 8 games with this schedule. And I think at the peak, we'll call it 9 wins for the Hokies, Mark.